Should it be more like an interview? Or should it be...
At least if you could start off with
Yeah,
the question, like
I'll do
tell
it.
us about the
Okay. Just tell me when.
go.
Well, I'm here with Andy Zildjian at the Frankfurt Musikmesse 2007, and he has agreed to tell us everything about the Sabian story. So, Andy, over to you.
Okay. Well, the questions that are usually asked, the first one is, why are we in Canada? And that's a pretty easy answer for that one. It started off back in 1947 when my father came back from the Second World War. He was living in Boston and working for our competition at that point. And he wanted to go hunting and fishing, and that was a very nice place to do so. So he went hunting and fishing in Canada. And then, around the 60s, we decided that we needed to have a second line cymbal made. And we also figured that it would be easier to ship to Europe because of tariffs, etc., from an ex-Commonwealth country, which there were a few in the area. But Canada, not only being a place that he was familiar with, but also being a place where he knew that the workforce was good, was very strong, had a very strong work ethic, that was pretty much the natural choice. So in 1968, we built a small factory up there to make what was at that point called Zilco cymbals. Somewhere along the mid-'70s, when things really started to take off in rock and roll for the second wave, it was decided that Zilco was not as important as making at that point, the Zildjian cymbals. So our guys in Canada started making all the cymbals that you couldn't just make quickly. All the cymbals like the extra thins, the hand-hammereds, for example, the Chinese, the swish pangs, and that type of thing. And as after we closed what at that point was the K. Zildjian Cymbal Company in Istanbul, we brought Michael and his father Kerepe, who was the K, and Michael's brother Gabriel up to the factory in Canada, and they all knew how to hand hammer. So they taught us in Canada how to hand hammer cymbals. And that was good because it wasn't the mainstream cymbal at that point, so it fit in perfectly with what we were doing. And it also fit in well because the guys in Canada were working harder at making higher quality stuff because they always had that, we got to show what we can do. When we had our separation from Zildjian Company in 1981, it was after my grandfather had passed away, and basically what he was kind of a referee between the two differing opinions between my uncle and my father. When he wasn't there anymore, it was difficult for agreements to be made. So instead of having everything collapse and turn into nothing but anger and no longer having a company, it was smarter we decided to leave and start our company up in Canada. So when we left, we had all the guys who could make the thin cymbals, the hard-to-make Chinese, the rides that were difficult, the pangs, and most especially the hand-hammered cymbals. We had to give up all of the trademarks, which means what people are used to seeing on a cymbal and what that means. In other words, looking at K and thinking that means a hand-hammered cymbal. At that point, that's separated. K was simply a trademark at that point. The hand-hammered cymbal became the HH. So we started the company back in 1981 with nothing but, at that point, AA cymbals and HH cymbals. Then we started trying to innovate. And that was a fun thing, because as you're innovating, you're really looking at what different you can do with the cymbal. We were lucky because we had the guys who knew a lot about making cymbals, knew a lot about how to keep from ruining a cymbal when you're trying to make something completely different. And we came up with, at that point, what was sound control. Do you remember sound control? Yeah. Sound control, which was just a thinner cymbal, a flatter cymbal with a little edge to control the break on the cymbal, so that as you wrote it, you got a nice deep pitch, but it wouldn't over crash. And as you hit a crash that way, it would give you quick sound and response, but it wouldn't go too far. It would give you a nice controlled sound. That worked out beautifully. Then we decided that not only could we make the classic V20 cymbal, which is a cast cymbal, but we could also work with the new metal, which was the V8, which was at that point pretty much just a European exclusive type of cymbal. So we came up and we made the V8 and the V8 Plus. Changed those around a little bit, innovated a little bit with packaging. Came up with packaging. That worked out well. People liked the idea of being able to buy 4 or 5 cymbals at one time. But then we did some innovation. We were moving in... No! That camera's gone now. Yeah. Okay. We came up with some innovations, but in 1993 we had what I consider the largest innovation, the biggest change to cymbal making since the automatic hammer back in 1948. And what that was AAX. And what we did is we took a regular AA cymbal and did some proprietary X hammering to it. And what that did was it focused the response of the cymbal. So the dynamics were much broader. You could go from a lower pitch, a lower strike, a lower activity, and still get all the tone and vibrancy, all the way up to a high activity, high action hit with plenty of power coming out of it and give you all the tone. So that was a heck of a good innovation. And of course, the extension of that is to go right off to HHX. And then we learned there was another way you could manufacture B20 that would keep it much less expensive to manufacture. And that's where we came up with the XS20. So that's using the same type of technology but in a different way. So the best cymbal metal for everybody, even down into the student lane, student pricing. But it's still a great sounding cymbal. But really what the most important part about all of these innovations is that each one of them was done with drummers and in consultation not only with the professionals but also with the guys on the street, regular everyday guys who are out there trying to play the best they can. So everything that we do is not just because we can, because I mean we can do a lot of things. I mean, for example, look at the Terry Bozzio cymbal. That was something that we could do, and we learned a lot from it. We kind of knew that it wasn't going to be a huge hit commercially, but at the same time, very interesting cymbal, and we learned from that. But everything else we've done has been based on request from drummers, from professional drummers, and from regular gigging drummers. And if you're not making something people want, what the heck are you doing?
So what lies ahead for Sabian right now, after 20 and some years of 25 years?
You know, what lies ahead is actually a pretty good question because, you know, it's nothing that we're deciding on what is going to be ahead. What it really comes down to is what do drummers want. And every year we go out and we have our guys on the road who will go around to drum stores and ask questions to the owners, to the guys on the counter. What is it that you're hearing that people are looking for? What is it that we need to do that people want? What is it that is missing? Is what we're doing right? And we'll do that with going into the stores. We also have a program in North America right now that we're planning on bringing over here to Europe, which is called the Vault Tour. And what that is we get about 100 different types of 100 different cymbals, most of them prototypes that we bring out to a store, and we invite people in not only to test these cymbals that they can't find anywhere because they're prototypes, they're not quite finished, or they've been turned into something completely different, but they're still interesting sounds. Not only can they try these cymbals out, but they can also tell us what it is that they want to have differently than what we're making. When you're talking directly to drummers, there's no better way to find out what you need to do. So that's one of my favorite programs that we have, is going out and bringing those cymbals. I mean, it's also interesting because we have a lathe there and a hammer there, so you can see how cymbals are made in a very general way. Sometimes people even get to use the lathe and the hammer and give it a shot. But everything that we do is based around what sounds drummers are interested in. So I mean, really, it's all about your sound. It's all about your ability to express yourself. And you know, as we say, you know, sound matters, and that's where it hits. So I can't tell you what we're going to do in the future. I have to find out myself this summer.
Great.
Yep.
Well, thanks a lot, Andy. And well, see you around.
Yeah. All right.
How the hell do you wrap something like this up?
Thank you and good night.